recorded and posted on the ESE website so that if you have any questions, you can refer back to it or share it with colleagues who may not have been able to join. And we will send that link out to everyone after the meeting. We will also not be taking live questions today. We have a large number of people on the line. So in order to keep this moving, we're asking that you email your questions in. You were provided that email address with the link this morning, but we will also send all of the questions around to people who had RSVP'd for today. We'll be answering questions on a rolling basis. So those that we receive from today's session, we hope to get answered by Wednesday or Thursday. We'll email them all to you and then continue to respond on a rolling basis and answer the every couple of days. We'll be posting them again to the ESD website, and then we will email to everyone that we have emails for. So in an effort to just streamline everything, we'll be taking that approach today. So as I said, this is round 3 of the Workforce Development Challenge. The guidelines largely have stayed the same from the last 2 rounds. We've made a few additions and an emphasis to emphasize a COVID response in the large unemployment rate that we have. We want to help people get back to work and to have access to those training resources that allow them to do so. So we've sped up the timeline. If you follow this, you'll know that we just announced round 2 awards a couple of months back. So we're obviously expediting this to get some round 3 awards out in the next year so that we can, again, help people get back to work. So just a reminder of how we got here. The Workforce Development Challenge is part of the Buffalo Billion Initiative. In 2011, all of the regions were, the regional councils were formed by Governor Cuomo so that we could drive economic development from the bottom up instead of from the top down. That same year, the Western New York New Regional Economic Development Council developed a strategic economic development plan for the region's 5 counties. All 10 regions throughout the state did that. As a result of the strength of Western New York's plan, in January of 2012, Governor Cuomo announced a $1 billion investment, which was the Buffalo Billion, in the region. Because of the success of round 1, the region was awarded a second round of $500 million in January of 2017. And so in Western New York, we continue to implement both phases of the Buffalo Billion. So our region has been successful in moving the needle in economic development indicators by advancing local strategies that align directly with New York State's core strategies for economic development, which are placemaking, innovation, workforce, and tradable sectors. So as part of that Buffalo Billion Phase 2, the workforce strategy included $10 million for this Workforce Development Challenge, which is designed to promote and invest in innovative approaches to workforce training for underserved populations and ensure that the region's workforce pipeline is keeping up with demand. Last year in 2019, the Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Foundation contributed an additional $1.5 million to the program for a total of $11.5 million. So through the first 2 rounds of this program, we funded 10 projects totaling just over $5.6 million. And as you'll note from the guidelines of the program, these were the workforce challenges that we face as a region that led to the development of this program. There's demand from employers, there are looming retirement cliffs, there's a decrease in the labor participation rate pre-COVID, there was high underemployment rates, high demand on workforce trainers that have not as much access to resources as they need, and we want to expand the Buffalo Billion investments into all sectors and populations in, throughout the 5 counties. Obviously, I'm speaking to a group that knows the challenges of COVID well and the even larger constraints that it's put on workforce trainers. In September, the Regional Council led a process to develop a post-pandemic regional recovery strategy, and we held some work group conversations with a couple of industries, including advanced manufacturing, agriculture, and tourism. Those work groups identified immediate needs for their workforce, and we hope to address some of those through this grant program. So we hope that you especially pay attention to these next few slides and the needs that industry is telling us that they have, so we can look to address some of that through this program. But we also want to be very targeted about our approach. Those newly unemployed, we want them to find work. We want to recover the region's economy. So we also want to pay special attention to those that were hardest hit by the pandemic. So I'm just going to give you a couple of stats of how it's impacted those folks in our region. About 9 out of 10 low-income jobs lost in Western New York due to COVID-19 were in 10 industries that include our regional target sectors for this program, such as advanced manufacturing, health and life sciences, and tourism and hospitality. Those 10 hardest hit industries include 76% of all Western New York workers, and an even higher share of workers who are people of color, which is 79%. So it's really taken a toll on what has been the bread and butter of our economy in this region. Many of the industries hardest hit by the pandemic are more likely to employ people of color, young adults, and those without a college degree. In areas of the region where over half of its residents are people of color, such as neighborhoods in the cities of Buffalo and Niagara Falls, low-income jobs lost to COVID-19 represent 16% of all jobs, compared to 11% in predominantly white neighborhoods. Many jobs lost to COVID-19 may not be coming back, so workers will be searching for sustainable, higher-paying careers and may look to acquire new skills and credentials. Workforce development that equips workers with skills needed for jobs in high growth and critical sectors can fill hiring gaps for employers and give vulnerable households long-term financial security. Meanwhile, focusing investments in the neighborhoods most adversely affected by the pandemic can foster shared economic prosperity that benefits all communities. In round 3, we will further assist with COVID-19 economic recovery efforts by doing what you see on the screen, providing greater opportunities for upskilling and reskilling of the workforce. So providing programs for existing workers to advance, and also retraining the newly unemployed whose businesses may not reopen or who seek more stable employment in a traditional workplace. We want to encourage and develop alternative methods for job training, including using virtual, remote, and inventive training approaches to adapt to new social distancing norms. And we want to promote and embrace a diverse and inclusive culture for workforce across all sectors. So in the next couple of slides, we'll discuss 2 of the sector worker priority actions in greater detail. These needs to be considered when submitting an application for training in these sectors, because this was specifically out of conversations with businesses in these industries. So in advanced manufacturing, they're really looking to target newly unemployed and people of color to reskill, upskill, and promote career opportunities while filling immediate and long-term employment needs. There's a great desire among businesses in the sector to diversify the workforce at all levels. And they want to engage newly unemployed, perhaps from non-manufacturing backgrounds, to provide new and stable employment with growth potential. They want to develop and encourage short-term training programs and expand on-the-job training opportunities that can be used to upskill incumbent workers, creating more pipeline opportunities and improving job retention. So think short-term programs can get people into jobs more quickly, with additional training happening once they're hired. So not necessarily sitting through a longer course, but really getting into that workplace and getting the on-the-job experience and skills. And think about creating new career pathways by targeting programs directly to those already employed, so they can move into higher up jobs and create new entry-level opportunities. So we always talk about those career ladder opportunities, and really the manufacturing sector is seeking to do that. We want to encourage the development, piloting, and expansion of flexible, innovative apprenticeship models, like employer-trainer partnerships for small and medium enterprises. So there's a very large demand and request from industry for apprenticeship opportunities. And of course, those allow employers to develop highly skilled employees. They reduce turnover rates, they increase productivity, and they lower the cost of recruitment for the employer. And for the employee, they can gain access to pay while they're learning, they can gain those benefits from companies, and they can put their skills into practice in real time. There's also the desire from the sector to expedite educational pathways, so continuing training during summer months, holiday breaks, not observed by non-scholastic entities. So if you're holding year-round training or skipping those breaks that are offered by schools, timelines can be condensed and job placement can happen more regularly. In the agriculture sector, much like in advanced manufacturing, they're strongly looking for opportunities to create a farming apprenticeship program that with hands-on learning and transferring knowledge from current farmers to newer workers. Not only field labor and workers, but also there's a need for techs for farm machinery repairs and non-labor management jobs. So really getting people to understand the gamut of the opportunities that are in the agriculture sector. The sector also wants to build diversity and inclusion programs into existing and new programs to emphasize farmers of color and women in the sector. So they're looking for programs that make it accessible to different communities to diversify the workforce, but also expand the opportunities for people of color and women in the sector, and identify that next generation of agriculture workers and farm owners. So I think that's a theme that is in advanced manufacturing and agriculture. Worried about turnover, and who is going to be that next generation owner and leader, whether it's for the manufacturing operation or for the farm. So really generating, again, that career ladder. The agriculture sector also emphasized the need to expand public education around the spectrum of opportunities in the workforce. So like I said before, technical, hands-on work, business development, ownership, and really connect curricula at community colleges more directly to regional industry needs. So they identified a need for an interim step between beginner and apprenticeship to give people an understanding of what they're getting into before just going to the farm. So that's sort of an education gap that exists. They also discussed the need for encouraging information on the sector earlier on, so engaging high school students to help develop an interest in the field so that by the time they graduate and are ready for that next step, whether it's a training program or going into college, university, they really have an understanding of the sector and what the job opportunities are. So again, what are the goals of the Workforce Development Challenge? These are all consistent from since round one. They're all in those, the guidelines. We obviously did add this time be responsive to industry and workforce challenges from the COVID-19 pandemic. But these are all still the same. We want to support the target industry sectors ripe for growth by expanding the workforce pipeline through meaningful industry partnerships leading to industry-driven training. We want to prepare the unemployed and underemployed populations for high demand, higher paying jobs with career advancement potential. We want to ensure that all workers of all skill levels, socioeconomic groups, racial and ethnic groups, gender identities and expressions, and geographies have the opportunity to participate and progress in the labor force. We want to create career ladder opportunities for entry-level and mid-skill workers. We want to provide direct placement into job opportunities through partnerships with industry. So that's something we've seen a little bit less of an emphasis of through the first two rounds of this, and we're really trying to put a little bit more of an emphasis on it in round three, is that really having that direct job placement at the end of the training. And we also want to increase the capacity of grassroots, community-based organizations with proven track records and results-oriented workforce development training. So we know a lot of you do not have the access to resources that you need to really increase the numbers, increase the opportunities that you have for people to come in for training. So we want to help to do that. So as I said earlier, we have up to there was $11.5 million program. We've spent about $5.6 million of that so far in rounds 1 and 2. The Workforce Development Challenge provides grants of amounts no less than $250,000 to not-for-profit corporations already performing high-impact, results-oriented workforce development training. This will bring funding for workforce training to all regions of Western New York, so not just Buffalo. We want to hit all 5 counties with this, and we've been pretty successful with that in the first 2 rounds. And across all 5 sectors, whereas the previous focus and a lot of investments that we've made have been in advanced manufacturing and health occupations, we also want to make sure we try to hit programs in tourism and clean energy. And we've also added tech jobs into it. So it wasn't originally one of the target industry sectors for Western New York, but I think we can all appreciate how reliant we are on tech, especially now throughout the pandemic. We've seen that we've all gone virtual, as this meeting is. So there's a reliance on tech, and it's only going to get stronger as companies grow and find more tech-related needs. The Workforce Development Challenge will invest in innovative approaches to workforce training for underserved populations to ensure that the region's workforce pipeline is being responsive to industry demands. So maybe not necessarily just continuing on with existing programs, but we want to see you be innovative. We want to see a creative program that is adaptable maybe to different sectors, to different populations, something that's new and exciting. And as we said before, we're targeting sectors ripe for growth. We will fund best practice models that maximize collaboration between business and workforce trainers. And we want to catalyze creative approaches to workforce development for long-term impact. So rather than following a prescriptive approach, the challenge is intended to be flexible and responsive to industry innovation and ingenuity. As it lists in the guidelines, the applicant eligibility has remained the same throughout these 3 rounds. So only not-for-profit organizations, you must be up to date with your filings with the New York State Office of the Attorney General's Charities Bureau. Applicants can be in any 5 counties of Western New York, either located or provide services to the 5 counties. So you might be physically located in Genesee, but you serve Niagara County or Erie County, that's fine. And you must show project and financial management expertise. If the application is for a capital project, that's fine. You must show ownership or site control of the property. There are some additional information in the guidelines on what we need to see for capital project applications. Project eligibility, as we said, 5 industry sectors plus tech. Must be developed in partnership with industry. So that can mean a lot of things. We're asking you to explain in the application this time what that partnership with industry is. Is it for job placement? Is it for interviews? Is it curriculum? So we're really asking you to explain to us, what is that partnership? Whereas before, you just had to say that, yes, you did have a partnership. We're just asking for more information on that this time. There's a preference for projects that specifically target historically underrepresented people, underemployed populations, and employed populations seeking career advancement. We want to prepare participants for entry and advancement with a preference for high demand living wage jobs. Living wage in this region is considered $45,000. So the job doesn't have to start there. I know a lot of these are entry-level jobs that don't start there, but we would like to see a pathway for that. We don't want to train someone to start and remain at an entry-level job. We want to see that advancement opportunity and for them to get to that livable wage. Project expansion can be defined as an increase in participant services or outreach. So we say that we want this to be a new program or an expansion of an existing program. That's what we mean for expansion. We want to see supports that reduce barriers to training. So that might include things like childcare, online programming, transportation, career coaching, soft skills or success skills, free or reduced price programming. So things that help people overcome those barriers to entry. And we'd like to see you include multiple workforce strategies, and we will give priority to projects that do employ multiple workforce development strategies. So that could include things like apprenticeships, on-the-job training, career-focused targeted educational and or vocational training that leads to a certificate or other non-degree bearing post-secondary credential. So again, stressing that non-degree bearing, this isn't meant to just supplement a matriculating program. Mentorships, training and job promotion or recruitment, job placement and retention, creating partnerships with industry, strengthening connections between employers and job seekers, and diversity and inclusion training for industry sector partners. Again, these eligible activities have remained about the same throughout the 3 rounds. For capital projects, again, this is some of the greater detail that I mentioned that exists. And please note that funds can only be used for expenses incurred after the project has been awarded to and accepted by the organization. So there's, as with all straight grants, a little bit of paperwork that happens. The project is awarded, we've got to go through that grant agreement process, and then you'll be able to set that beginning date. Again, some use restrictions based on what ESD is and is not able to fund through our statute. So all of these restrictions are things that funds cannot be used for. This is all also included in the guidelines. So again, minimum amount requested is $250,000. There is no matching requirement, but we do favorably look upon those applications that do have matching funds from sources beyond just public funds. So this shouldn't just be, you know, I've got this program to fund, I've got a little bit of a gap, I'm going to apply to this program for it. There really should be a purpose. There really should be buy-in both from, you know, it could be other public funds, but there should be that buy-in from industry and a want for them to invest in this program as well. We have clarified this time around for follow-on funding. Follow-on funding may be awarded one time for the same project to a grant recipient. And again, it's not automatic. You would have to apply. So if you received funding in round one or two, you could be applying to round 3. If you did not get it in round 2, but you had it in round 1, if you got in round 1 and 2 for the same project, you cannot apply again. But if it's for a different project from the same organization, that's fine. You can apply to round 3. We've adjusted the review criteria a little bit this time as well. Really want to see what those support services you're providing are. And get a little bit more information, you know, those project partnerships and innovation. Like we said, we really want to understand what is that relationship that you have with industry and job placement opportunities. Project budget, there will be a template that you fill out. So we have a uniform budget, hoping to prevent us having to go back and forth with some of the applicants to get some more information where we have that budget template for you from the beginning. And all of this is in the guidelines as well. So as you saw from the announcement, new this year, we're doing a letter of intent. That is due December 18th by 4:00 p.m. It's a one-page thing. It's not a ton of detail. So I recognize that it's a quick turnaround, but it shouldn't be too difficult to fill out. So if a letter of intent meets our program requirements, an applicant will be invited to briefly discuss their proposal with ESD and members of the Workforce Development Challenge Review Committee. And we'll have the discussion, we'll work to develop that proposal with you, address any questions that we may have from the beginning, and then you would be invited to proceed to a full application. So we're looking to, you know, save you guys, if it's not a good idea from the, you know, in terms of it meeting the program goals from the beginning, we want to save you the time in going through, you know, that application. We want to discuss ways that maybe you can improve an application. We want to work together in getting to a good outcome for you. So both the letter of intent and the full application must be submitted electronically online through the Community Foundation for Greater Buffalo's Foundation Grant Lifecycle Manager. Only applications that are submitted online will be accepted through the foundation. You can't email something into us, you can't print it and drop it off. It has to go through that portal. And applicants who are invited to proceed to the full application will, without first being approved through the LOI, will not be considered for funding. So this is just a peek at how the portal is. Like we said, it has to be accessed through the Community Foundation and completed through that portal. So you will see that intro page. You will be invited to log in. New applicants will need to create an online account before you can proceed to the application. If you already have an account, you can use your existing login information. If you forgot, that's fine. There's that option to forgot your password and reset it for yourself. So this is what the login looks like. It will then take you to this LOI page. You can select from a number of the grants once you get into that login, and you will find round 3 Workforce Development Challenge. Click apply, like it says where the arrow is up top, and you'll then be taken into the online LOI to complete. All applications, again, must be completed through the system. Hard copy applications will not be accepted. And once you've submitted your LOI or your application, you will click submit down at the bottom. You can save the LOI or application prior to submitting and return to it later. So if you want to do it little by little, if you have stuff filled in, somebody needs to look at it, or you have other questions that you have to go back to, you have that opportunity. You'll see next to submit on the bottom, it does say save. So you can do that. The system will not submit any submissions for the LOI after 4:00 p.m. on December 18th, so it does lock. So 401, sorry, you're not going to be able to get it in. And same thing with the full application. That is due March 5th. March 5th promptly at 4:00. Again, anything lingering, anything saved but not submitted will not automatically be submitted. So make sure you do go back in. If you do have something saved throughout to save your progress, you do have to click that submit button. And all of the required fields must be completed before you're able to submit. So you've got to have all the attachments it asks for. You've got to have all of these boxes filled out. So like I said, we are not taking questions today. You can email them to John and we will compile them. We will send all responses to everyone who has responded to this webinar today. And we will continue to do that until December 11th. That's when we will post that last set of questions. And again, we will send this link out to you as well, so you can remember to look there for the questions and also to review this webinar again if you need to. There's also a Q&A that's already posted on the website. Check that before you submit a question, because it may have the answer that you're looking for. After doing this for 2 rounds, we've answered a lot of these questions, so that could all be saved there. So make sure you take a look at that before you send in your email. And that's all for today. So thank you for joining. Please email in your questions. We're grateful for your interest in this program. We had a lot of people sign up for this webinar. We're excited to be offering this again so quickly and look forward to receiving your submissions. Thanks.